Morning Seattle, everyone. The first Barbie doll with autism is now being sold in stores across the country. Mattel launched it this month after more than 18 months of development in partnership with the Autistic Self Advocacy Network. The network is a nonprofit organization that advocates for the rights and better media representation of people with autism. Mattel says the new doll's appearance is meant to reflect some people who are on the spectrum. For more on autism and the impact this new doll could have for those on the spectrum, Steve's down in the ARC Lounge right now with Dr. Lisa Nowinski, the director of the Seattle Children's Autism Center.
Yes, Doctor, nice to have you with us here today.
Absolutely,
great
to be
this
here.
Morning? You
Doing
have
well.
one of the dolls. I know that we have one on the table here.
Yeah.
And I know that there's been a lot of interest in these since Mattel announced that they were creating and going to start selling this doll in some of the stores across the country. I've been hearing that some stores have even been selling out of them too, which is pretty amazing. What impact, and Tyra kind of posed that question in the intro there, but what impact do you think that this is going to have on kids across the country?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had a chance to sort of listen in to the reactions of autistic individuals and their parents and caregivers this week. And, you know, I think as with a lot of things, there are mixed reactions to the release of the doll. But really the most important thing, I think, for us to acknowledge is that representation is so important. And this is the first autistic Barbie to be created and sort of put out onto the market by Mattel. And that's really cool. It gives an opportunity for children to incorporate elements of the autistic experience into their play. And, you know, I think will really ultimately be helpful for children with autism to see themselves reflected in the toys that they have and play with, and helpful for non-autistic children and their peers to really incorporate the people that are all around them into their play in a really important way. Their classmates, their friends, their neighbors, to have dolls and toys that reflect those individuals' experience. So I think that,
Are there certain features on these that stand out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk through some of these. I think it's actually a great way for us to learn a little bit more about autism and sort of how the autistic experience is reflected in this doll. You know, on first glance, she really looks like a pretty typical Barbie, right? She's in their fashionista line and it has a pretty hip dress on here. But when we take a closer look, there are a few things that, that you might notice. Physically, there are a few things, including her eye gaze. So whereas most of their typical Barbie line has a pretty direct sort of centered eye gaze, this doll demonstrates a slightly shifted eye gaze, which is intended to represent the difficulty with eye contact that some individuals with autism may have. Autistic folks, you may notice, especially in social conversation and sort of high-pressured social situations, may direct their eye gaze slightly to the side or down. And so this doll's eye gaze is reflecting that representation of the sort of autistic experience. Her arms also are designed to move in sort of new and flexible ways, allowing for some of the repetitive motor movements and stereotypies that we can see in autism. We often call these stemming behaviors, and they might look like things like flapping or moving your hands in a particular unusual way. And so this doll allows for that movement, so it can really reflect the real life experience of an autistic person while a child's playing with the toy. Beyond those physical features, the Barbie also is demonstrating or has a number of accessories that are pretty cool to highlight. So these are some fun things we see here. In her right hand, she's got a hot pink fidget spinner. Again, on first glance, not something totally unusual. Lots of kids enjoy fidgets and have toys. But for autistic individuals, those fidgets can be a really important part of helping them to regulate throughout the day. And so she's got that with her. She's also wearing some stylish headphones, kind of over-the-ear headphones. Again, not something totally atypical. Lots of kids and teens enjoy listening to music and might wear headphones when they're out and about. But for individuals with autism, this can be a really important tool to help modulate their sensory input and experience. For some autistic individuals, they have particular sensitivity to noises or sounds. And so having things like noise-canceling headphones available as a tool allows them to remain regulated and more comfortable in their life and community as they sort of move through the world. Now, my favorite accessory is this little tablet that she's got here in her hand. This looks like kind of an iPad, but really is an alternative or augmentative communication communication, or AAC device. And this is a tool that many autistic individuals might use to communicate with others around them. A certain percent of autistic individuals are actually non-speaking, and so they may never develop spoken language. And for those people, AAC devices are a critical piece of how they communicate. It really becomes their voice in the world, and their ability to communicate, answer questions, and share their needs and preferences. And even for those autistic folks who do use spoken communication, many find tools like an AAC device helpful in communicating in more high stress or high pressured social situations. So this is my favorite.
So much just in the past couple of minutes about the descriptions there. I really quickly want to talk to you about some of the work that you do with the Seattle Children's Autism Center. What type of work is done in that center?
Yeah, that's a great question. Happy to talk about that. The Seattle Children's Autism Center provides a wide range of services for individuals with autism and their families, ranging from diagnostic evaluations, which help us to really accurately and precisely identify children who have an autism diagnosis or meet criteria for that diagnosis. One thing that I'll just comment on that is relevant to this, Barbie, as well, is that autism impacts 1 in 31 children, and boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed than girls. And so I really love that this Barbie, this female Barbie, is reflecting the autistic experience, because we know that a lot of girls are actually later diagnosed or undiagnosed, and so we might miss autism in this particular population. So at the Seattle Children's Autism Center, one of our goals in providing diagnostic evaluations is to make sure that we're helping to accurately diagnose any child who really should have a diagnosis of autism, both males and females.
Why is there sort of that discrepancy between boys and girls? Is there some explanations behind that?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons why we think that happens. The discrepancy is most prevalent in our sort of lower support need population, so individuals who do develop spoken language. And what we notice is that girls often engage in what we call masking or camouflaging behaviors, where they may learn different compensatory strategies that make it more difficult for sort of an untrained eye to recognize how their autism is presenting. So some of that is probably related to how girls are socialized and sort of wired to interact socially, because autism at its core is a diagnosis that is defined by difficulties with social communication. If girls are able to learn these compensatory strategies or sort of mask their social difficulties, people may not reflect the full extent of their autism.
Just fascinating. Thank you so much for coming in this morning and explaining this. And we know, I think Target stores have already started to sell them. Obviously on Mattel's website, I think Walmart is selling them starting in March. But just learn so much about some of the features of this doll, and I know it's already getting a lot of demand so far, Tyra.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how she described what the fidget does, and the fidget spinner, the iPad. I mean, I love it all. This
Critical
is gonna do
features
wonders.
on it.
Absolutely. Representation. Thank you. To learn more about the Seattle Children's Autism Center, use your smartphone's camera to scan the QR code in the corner of your screen. The link that pops up will take you directly to KOMOnews.com. From there, you'll find a link to the